Hello, everyone. I thought I would hop on here because that is how I have been doing my breast cancer updates. And I will wait for a few more people to get on here. So, had a little change in events here. I guess you guys probably saw my last video where I said I am cancer free, which is the good news. I am still cancer free as far as we know. Um, and the results of my biopsy after my mastectomy surgery were really good because my lymph nodes were clear. And so I was under the impression that that meant that I also didn't have to do chemo since there was no evidence of cancer evidence that cancer had traveled elsewhere since your lymph nodes are how they do that. Um, and also no radiation, which I still don't have to do radiation since there was no cancer in my lymph nodes. So, and this is going to be another very real vlog. I knew I don't have grandma with me today, so I'm going to have kids coming out. That's always how it is when I go live. What I didn't realize was that I come up here and say hi.
No.
No. Oh my god. Go on out and close the door, okay? Mommy's making video. Thank you. Say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Close the door, please. Thank you, sweetheart. Bye-bye. Okay. So carrying on. So what I did not realize or what I had forgotten or whatever was that there was one more pathology test that the oncologist does after surgery. I ended up having my, I guess you could call it a post-op or just like a follow-up with my oncologist. And he went over the pathology results with me and everything and said everything looked good, but he still has to do this one more test on the cancer cells itself, and it's called the Oncotype DX. And what it is a genetic test that they do on the cancer cells themselves, and it gives you a pretty accurate, like numbered prediction or kind of like a level of risk for if you're going to have recurrence or not. So what that means is if there is a somewhat higher chance of recurrence, that means that there is a chance that even though your lymph nodes were clear, cancer cells could have still like passed through and escaped to other parts of your body undetected, in a way that they can't see on imaging or things like that. And so they did that test and it took 3 weeks to get back. And I was still feeling pretty hopeful that the results would be good. So the results of this test basically, if you have a higher chance of recurrence, then they want you to do chemo, especially when you're someone my age, just to you can never completely reduce the risk, but significantly reduce the risk. Because obviously they want me to have a lot more years left. And so anyway, I was feeling hopeful since my nodes had been clear and everything. And because they had caught it so early, and it ended up being that my cancer was only stage 1, not stage 2, like we had thought. But then I got the results. And it turns out that the cancer cells that I have, apparently that kind of cancer cell, there is a 26% chance of recurrence. They gave me a score of 38. I don't even know how they calculate that or what all that means, but that translates to I have a 26% chance of recurrence. And so, unfortunately, especially because of my younger age, that means that I do have to do chemo. So I'm a little bit bummed about that, but um, I'm also glad that they have the technology that they can determine that exactly what your risk is, and it's not just a shot in the dark. And I'm glad that I can know that. They have had me on the tamoxifen, which is the estrogen blocker, which I have told you guys about, and that also helps reduce the risk of recurrence. Um, but I guess if you get a higher score on this test that they did, that means that even in spite of taking tamoxifen, you can still have we asked the doctor if there was a chance we could wait until this whole pandemic was over, because I mean, hello, having a slight or not a slightly, a greatly, um, let's see, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Compromise. That's right. Compromised immune system is really not what I want in the middle of a pandemic. Um, but I'm trying to look at the bright side in that they are doing a less aggressive form of chemo. And that means that the drug that they use is a little less intense, and it does maintain some level of immunity, so it doesn't like utterly destroy your immune system like other forms do. 3 months, 3 months. It is 4 treatments every 3 weeks, if that makes sense. So it's like I get one treatment every 3 weeks for 4 times. So yeah, so I have to do chemo. And I'm really bummed about it. I was hoping that maybe I could do some sort of alternative therapy. I know they have immunotherapy now where they can train your immune system to attack any future cancer. I asked my nurse friend, who is the head of a breast center in the area, and she said that they just aren't quite there yet with the immune therapy. They're working towards having immunotherapy replace chemo, but it's just not quite there with breast cancer. And I guess they use it more for like skin and blood cancers, I guess. So I am starting on the 28th. So that is in, what is today, the 16th. So that is in 12 days, a little less than 2 weeks. This next Wednesday, I am going to get a port. They put the little thing in your chest where they inject all the medicine and everything. I was asking about doing it in my arm since I have pretty good veins, but the nurse that I was talking to was saying that it can basically destroy your veins. It's really not very kind to your veins. Um, so they prefer to do a port. So I have to go get another procedure at the hospital on Wednesday. So going to have to do the whole, bring the N95 masks, which thankfully we have some friends donating to us because but we don't have our last ones anymore. And so um yeah, so I have to go to the hospital to get that put in. And then thankfully the rest of the procedures, like treatments that I'm doing, are at the oncology center. So hopefully that will be one of the last times I have to go to the hospital. I'll probably have to go again to get the port taken out. But yeah. So like it has a lot of the normal side effects of chemo. I'm gonna lose my hair. Honestly, that is the thing I am the most emotional about of all the things. Like, it's weird. You'd think I'd be more worried about other things, but maybe it's vanity. I don't know. But I'm sad about losing my hair. I love my hair. And I've heard you can make a wig out of your own hair. um, that is something I could potentially do. I'm not sure if I want to spend the money on it, if it's going to be just 3 months and in the summertime when it's going to be hot outside anyway. Um, I don't know. We'll see what I feel up to at the time. So honestly, that's the part I'm most sad about. They have, it sounds like chemo, thankfully, is a lot easier than it used to be. They give you all sorts of drugs to help keep a lot of the side effects at bay, so they really help manage the nausea now. I've talked to several women now who have gone through chemo, and most of them have said that they hardly even felt any nausea at all, which was amazing. So I'm like, well, that's nice because that's one of the things that I was most worried about as well. I hate being sick to my stomach, especially. Um, the other big concern that we have, obviously, of doing this during a pandemic is staying safe. And under normal circumstances, I would probably be relying on friends and whatnot a lot more than I'm going to be able to this time. Thankfully, this entire time, we have been quarantining with my parents and Bill's mom. And so they will continue to help with the kids. And I am so thankful for that. Um, so they will be able to be here when I am feeling at my worst. Um, it sounds like even if, week during each treatment where you are just completely knocked on your back energy wise, like you just can barely get out of bed. You just feel so exhausted that you just can't even do anything. So I'm really going to be having to rely on, whoop, sorry, can you guys see me? It says my connection is unstable. Haven't seen any comments here yet. Okay. Um, so, what was I saying? Yeah, so I'm really going to be relying on our family, relying on my parents and Bill's mom to really help with the kids, especially during that week during each treatment when I can barely do anything. So, yeah, I guess my journey is not as short as I thought it was going to be. I knew I was getting off the hook too easy. um, but I am thankful that they do have this technology and that they are able to predict so accurately, like what my risk is for recurrence. And I really don't want to have recurrence. um, I'm 35. Oh, actually, going to be 36 on Monday. Um, and I have 3 kids, and I just, I feel like I cannot mess around with that. So if I have to do chemo, I have to do chemo, and if that significantly reduces my risks, then so be it. I got to be there for my family, and I know they're going to be there for me for the 3 months when it's difficult, and then I'm just really hoping and praying that everything can get back to normal after that. Um, in a lot of ways, it feels less scary than it would if I had had a more advanced cancer, I think. If I had had a more advanced cancer, I feel like doing chemo would be a lot scarier because then there's like a lot more at stake, you're like hoping, is the chemo going to catch it all? Is it going to shrink the tumors? Is it going to do the trick? Whereas the chemo they're doing with me is mostly preventative because they can't, through imaging or anything, see any evidence of cancer in my body, which is fantastic. And this is just to keep it that way in case there happen to be any rogue cells floating around in there. So, that is why they're doing it. So I am thankful that we live in an era where we are able to do that. They say that breast cancer survival rates are up in, like 95% or something like that. It's really high now. And the medical technology has come so far, and it is so amazing. And I am so, so thankful for modern medicine. This is definitely, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, my channel name is Eat, Pray, Crunch, crunch referring to being like more crunchy, right? Um, and, I've had some people say, like, oh, well, you really don't seem that crunchy. You do these conventional things. And I've always said, well, I've always been moderately crunchy. I've always said that all along. I'm moderately crunchy. And I do crunchy things when they work. And I think, doing things the more natural way, I always try the more natural way first for, more mundane kinds of things. And I try to live a eco-friendly lifestyle that's friendly with the earth and that kind of thing. Um, and I think for more like conditions, doing things more naturally and crunchy, I think there's a lot of merit to managing a lot of chronic conditions with more natural ways. But when it comes to more serious, acute problems, I am 1000% thankful for conventional medicine. Um, conventional medicine. Um, because science, when it comes to acute stuff, like they know their stuff, they know what they're talking about. And I mean, I don't have to fear for my life because of this amazing medical technology and science. So um, I just really feel like in life, there's a really good balance you can strike between conventional stuff and more natural, crunchy stuff. And this would definitely be one of those cases where it's an acute problem and cancer is one of those things that modern conventional medicine is really good at, especially breast cancer, because it is so well studied and understood, like the genetics of it and the science of it and how it works and everything. So, yeah, so I'm really, really thankful for that. And I can imagine that after chemo, I will probably be doing all sorts of detoxing and things like that, and going back to my natural methods for detoxing and that kind of thing, just to flush all of the nasty chemicals out of my body. Um, and the thing that I keep reminding myself of is, I'm not thrilled that I have to put all this, toxic stuff in my body, but it's life saving. And the benefit is greater than the risk. And our bodies are amazingly resilient and, they can heal from this stuff. And, you are capable of flushing this stuff completely out of your system when you're done. So, once this is all said and done, I plan to go back to doing all my natural crunchy stuff and detoxing and hopefully just putting all of this stuff behind me and having it be like some weird, strange dream in the past and just getting on with normal life after that. So, yeah, that's where we're at. I'm going to do chemo and I am starting on the 28th. Um, so yeah, in terms of, I started talking about that, but didn't finish. Talking about just keeping safe during the pandemic. Um, Yeah, that is a concern since I will have my immunity won't be completely gone, but it will be definitely compromised. And so, talking with my breast uh, center nurse friend, she was saying, we're just gonna, I mean, we've already been quarantining, but we're gonna have to like really isolate, is what it comes down to. Thankfully, Bill's job, he's gonna be able to continue working just because the nature of it is a very safe kind of job, and he's not around people very much at all. And when he does have to communicate with people, he can do so through the phone or very much at a distance outdoors, that kind of thing. So we're really thankful that he's able to continue working through this. We are going to have to implement some protocols for when he comes home from work, that we're going to have him, we're going to have like a hamper in the garage or something like that, where he strips off his work clothes into that hamper and they go straight into the wash. And he's going to have to shower immediately, wash hands, all those things. Um, and if he has to run any errands for work, he'll be wearing an N95 mask, and gloves, and doing the whole 9 yards in order to protect himself, to protect me, so that we can still be in the same living space without it being a risk. Um, and same with our parents. If they have to go into any sort of, necessary public place, the grocery store, they can thankfully go during senior hours, and times that are less populated. And they can also wear an N95 mask. We're also experimenting with making masks out of HEPA filters. Been doing some reading on this, and I know there's comments saying like, "Careful with the HEPA filters, they can have fiberglass." I read all about it. It looks like most vacuum bags, HEPA vacuum bags, actually don't have fiberglass in them. Um, but either way, we're going to be covering them with cloth anyway, or using them as a filter within a cloth mask. So that helps with that problem anyway, even if it were an issue, but it looks like it's not. Um, but apparently, HEPA filters can be almost as effective as N95 masks if they're really well made. So, yeah, so we're looking into making some masks or some filters out of HEPA vacuum bags so that Bill can use those when he needs to run an errand for work. Um, yeah, so we're going to be doing the whole 9 yards. I'm not going to be able to go into any public place for 3 months at all. Um, I have been the last few weeks, fully masked up with gloves. I have my whole protocol for, staying safe. I've done a couple of grocery runs, like later in the evening when fewer people are there. Um, So I think we're gonna have to either switch to fully doing like Instacart for our groceries or just rely. That is one thing that our friends can do, which they have already offered to do, which is to go get groceries for us and drop them on our porch. So we're so thankful that we have so many friends that are willing to help in all the ways that they are able to and in safe ways. Um, so yeah, that's how we're gonna have to stay safe. And I am able to, like, go for walks still as long as I am, like, socially distant from people, um, and I can still go outside and enjoy the summertime and be with my kids. I just will have to stay in the shade just because with chemo, you're a lot more prone to sunburn. So, yeah, so I'll just be taking all of those precautions. I mean, in a way, we're already kind of used to living this way because of the quarantine. And we've already been, somewhat isolated for the last few months anyway. So, I mean, and everybody else is kind of in the same boat. I mean, to somewhat lesser degree, since they are letting up some of the restrictions. Oh, hey, Shell. Uh, Thank you so much for the prayers. We really appreciate that. Um, so yeah, in a way, like we're kind of used to this routine right now. We're already homeschooling. We'll just continue doing that. We do homeschooling light in the summertime, so where we just do some real basic stuff over the summertime just to keep their brains going. But like we're already doing all these precautions anyway, so it's a little bit more to make it the level we need it to be. So, I mean, in a way, I mean, I guess it's kind of a blessing in that, like, we're not going to be having to do like such a sudden shift in our lifestyle because the quarantine, we've already been doing it anyway. So, yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else. Do you guys have any questions or anything? I will probably be continuing to document this whole process like I have been. Lives are definitely the way that works best for doing these kinds of updates, just because I don't have to edit them. And I do have a bunch of videos that I have recorded and will work on editing now and getting up for you guys. You probably saw the last couple were of Alex. Those were actually school assignments for a couple of his classes for school. We weren't required to do it, but I thought it would be a fun way to show his learning for those classes. Um, so we might do a few videos like that down the road. But I do have a couple of garden videos that we have filmed, and I will get those edited and up for you guys. And I still have my huge backlog of vlogs that I will just keep working through. And I'm also just kind of viewing this as a time like I'm going to get a break. And I mean, probably half the time I'm just going to be sleeping in my bed, but the time that I'm feeling good enough, I'm going to use it as a time to like catch up on stuff because I have so much to catch up on, especially with YouTube. So I'm viewing it as a blessing in that way. So um, my downtime for the next 3 months, I will probably be doing a lot of that. I will probably be doing a lot of editing and catching up and like photos I've taken of the kids doing things with them and editing those, and I have plenty to do to keep me occupied. So, and all my YouTube friends to watch. I have podcasts that I listen to. There are some audiobooks I want to check out. Um, yeah, what else is YouTube friends? Oh, yeah, there's some books that I want to read. Imagine that. I haven't actually like sat down and read a book in a long time. One, it's not my greatest learning style, but two, I mean, hello, kids, three kids, like when am I gonna sit down to read? So, um, so yeah. So if you guys don't have any more questions, I think I'm going to sign off there. And I will bring you guys along with me to document this process as I go, as I start my chemo and lose my hair and all of that stuff. I will bring you guys along with me. I think it's therapeutic just talking to you guys. I definitely find YouTube to be therapeutic in that way. So I always appreciate you guys so much. I love you guys so much. I apologize that there's no comments once again. I was almost excited there for about 2 weeks because I had comments back for about 2 weeks and then they're gone again. So I just never know what YouTube is going to do these days. So you can contact me in all the other ways through Facebook, Instagram, on the community tab here on YouTube. I do have an email, but I don't check that as often. So those are the ways to communicate. So anyway, I think that is all. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.